Oh, wow, I actually kind of like these a little bit better. What's going on, everybody? I'm back, MikeySax, from my little bit of a hiatus. See, I have been completely changing all of the gears into my house into building a recording studio because I quit my day job. And that also means that I'm going to be able to create more content, and I'm so excited to do that. I have to come clean about something. There's always going to be drama. And there is when it comes to the RG40XXH and the V. But man, is it difficult for me to ever put these guys down. Simply because my own personal bias has allowed me to see these in a whole new perspective. And that use case is JRPGs. Now, where the drama falls with these very well-made and beautiful shell colorings of a handheld is, of course, the joysticks. Or in this case, the stick. And that has to do with the fact that they're not true analog joysticks. These joysticks have dun dun dun. Oh, actually, that came out really good. Cardinal snapping. They have cardinal snapping. Now, I know some of you in our little humble fam are probably saying, well, because they are snapping to cardinal directions, I'll never buy from Anbernic ever again. And to which of you I say, why are you talking like that? And also, yeah, you will. Now, I own many handhelds, and that's simply because, mind your business, B, I can do what I want, and 7, it's fun. I like to think that I represent the average consumer because I don't have that much of a tech background. I want something to work right out of the box in the stock experience because I just want to play my games. Micro SD cards scare me, and just taking them out gives me anxiety. Tell me you haven't slingshotted one of these things across the room when you're trying to insert it back in and you just clipped your nails. Comment below. I'm your host, MikeySax, and join me as I make the case for cardinal snapping featuring the Anbernic RG40XXV and the H. So, my first JRPG that I selected for this was going to have to be the Sword of Hyjah Shining Force for Game Gear. This is a great game to just show off this beautiful display and how they were able to pre-program all of these bezels automatically in to the actual device, which I personally love. If you're going to have a 4:3 aspect ratio screen, you better have some sort of bezel. I think it adds to the customability of this. It kind of gives you that retro nostalgia itch, which I really appreciate. It's not necessary by any stretch, but you can really kind of appreciate this a little bit more just by the fact that they have the bezels in here. The screen is gorgeous, and the reason why I wanted to show off this game is just to show you that these colors really do pop when it comes to the emulation and the colors of the actual systems itself. I think these screens are really good. Going back to the controls, the D-pad on this thing is just so good. It absolutely pivots to where you want it to be. I don't feel any resistance whatsoever. And the joysticks for something like this is just kind of like an added bonus anyways. You only have 4 directions that you can go into this game, so you're not going to even need corners on there. You have snapping in the joystick and you have a D-pad. Where I think snapping into the cardinal directions comes into play with most JRPGs that you're going to be playing anyways, you're going to be using it as a fast forward. And for me, I personally like ×4 fast forward for this game. It's not too fast where I can't really follow along in the game. For the most part, this is a slow game to begin with. If I play this thing walking around just like this, it's just very slow. It takes you forever to get to any part into the screen, and some may say that adds to the overall exploration of the game. But for me, I'm just not a big fan of it. I want to get through the game as quickly as possible at this point because I've played it 400 million times. And there's something very magical about the ×4 setting on this handheld particularly. It has something to do with the audio, and I don't know why other devices can't seem to do this. It may have something to do with the emulator settings, What I like about the Gambate emulator, or Gambit, whatever, I think it's Gambit. I'm gonna call it Gambate because I'm just following in Russ's footsteps at this point. What I like about it is that it hardwires a hold switch for the fast forward, and I'm using that all the time. Sometimes I want to just walk slow, and sometimes I want to be able to just get through things quickly and be on an automatic toggle for the fast forward. But the magic lies in the ×4 with the audio. I'm going to show you an example of what I'm talking about. And if I engage the fast forward toggle, there's barely any distortion in the audio whatsoever. However, if I take a different handheld and I put it at ×4, listen to this absolute horror show that ends up happening. Here I have my trusty RG Cube, another one of my absolute favorites. I've actually reviewed this one in the past. If you want to take a look, there'll be a link in the description. It's actually frightening. And whenever I'm using fast forward on a device like this, I keep the volume relatively low. I don't feel like I have to do that on something like my guy over here, the V. Now let's engage the fast forward. We're at ×4, and I actually want to show you what the other sound volumes sound like, because it's only in the ×4 where it sounds so crystal clear. Here's what it sounds like at ×2. It's scary. Still not as distorted as the RG Cube, but let's listen to what the RG Cube sounds like at ×2. The actual pitch is sharp. So now let's go back. I know this is redundant. I just want you to go back and now really hear how crystal clear that ×4 is on this. You know, there's no pitch distortion. It's very doable. It's still a little bit crazy, but really the only reason why I like to have the audio on when I'm doing fast forward in the first place is just so I can hear the key clicks and the chimes and all that stuff, so I know that it's acknowledging my inputs, basically. Getting into the cardinal snapping, this is where I think it really shines, because if you're going to be playing something at ×4, you better be able to control everything the way it stands. And I've noticed that I have a perfect circle with the joystick, with the cardinal snapping, in this instance. Take a look. The way, see that? I just was able to circle like that. It's just nice. It's very controllable. It's very easy to navigate the entire map in a fast forward. It makes everything a little bit more enjoyable. I think one of the games that I'm going to be using to test D-pads from now on is the game Boxal for the Game Boy original. I mean, if you look at the way that I'm just able to completely 100%, you could see that this is absolutely responsive. It turns on a dime. It just makes me feel like I have complete control over the character. And a game like this really requires precision, because if you mess up, you only get one back step. Let's see if I can do that. Yeah, if you hit A, you get the back step. That's the only thing that you can use, and I think that's just classic for a game like this. I've tried other versions of this game on Pico 8 before, and they use the same exact principle. You can only backstep once. It adds to the strategy, I guess. One of the other games that is a favorite from my childhood, which I've discovered much later in the game that this was not a very, very popular game whatsoever. And that had mostly to do with the fact that the music was very, like, corporate jazz. And Shem, I know you know what I'm talking about. I've actually realized and commented on your videos before when you use some of this music in here. And I don't blame you, because as a jazz musician myself, it's kind of great, not gonna lie. Going back to our cardinal snapping here, this is the perfect quintessential reason why the cardinal snapping feels so good. Back when PlayStation 1 was first released, you only had a D-pad, and then you could add the analog joysticks with an add-on controller. You'd have to get a whole completely different controller, but you'd have the full analog experience. Yeah, okay, we have cardinal snapping. It doesn't really matter too much. You're gonna have great control over the character. But when I play JRPGs, they're on fast forward. So let's kick this into high gear. Skadoosh. Now what we see here is that we have all 8 directions in a much more fluid way. And I think that has something to do with just the way that the fast forward feels. You know, I have perfect control over everything. We can see what it's like to enter a battle. Very easy to navigate. Again, just makes the playability and the quality of life so much better. And as you can see, yeah, everything's going to be snapping, but it would be snapping anyways. Navigating the map on here as well is just, again, super duper easy. No big problems whatsoever. So anyways, there you have it. That's my perspective. I want to know what you think in the comment section below. I think the use case for these two handhelds is definitely made for JRPGs. I could see myself facing my anxiety, getting the micro SD card out, and preloading all of my favorite JRPGs on these things and just taking them as beta devices all the time. They're super comfortable. They're just well-made handhelds, and they're just so comfortable in the hand. Even the vertical. Like, there's just so much meat to grab. I love the finger saddle on these guys. Oh, these finger saddles are so fun. Because you can actually kind of one-hand this thing in a way where you don't need the grip, just because you have this little lip right over here. And I like these, I like the way that they protrude just perfectly, and they form fit to your hand. You have the curved is always going to fit a little bit nicer in your hand as well. I see no reason why you wouldn't want to get something like this, as long as if you know going into it now that there is something that these things can play really, really well. And that is the old stuff and anything that is a JRPG. I guess that's it. I'm MikeySax. This was kind of a short one. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and comment and subscribe. And I am MikeySax, and I'm going to sign off telling you to take care of your handhelds and take care of your hands.